I'd spent 2 years saving every spare dollar I could find, stashing it away like a secret I could trust. I called it the gift fund in my head, though no one but me knew about it. Not even Jasmine. Every time I transferred a little more from my checking account to that travel fund, I thought about the look on her father's face when he'd see it. Tickets to Italy. The place he'd been dreaming of since before Jasmine was born. I remembered the night he'd first mentioned it. A quiet evening over a dinner of grilled salmon and overcooked pasta. Jasmine and Sierra at the table. He leaned back, eyes half closed, and said, "One day I'd like to stand on the old vineyard soil, the place my grandfather left behind for America, just once." That night I went home and researched flights, hotels, tour guides. I imagined the cobbled streets he'd walk, the dusty roads that led to the Falsey estate. I found the perfect villa overlooking the valley, a place where he could sip wine on a sun-drenched terrace and watch the sunset over the rows of grapevines his ancestors once tended. It felt like the least I could do, for a man who'd shown me more kindness than anyone else in Jasmine's family, the man who'd called me son the day I married her, who'd always taken my side when she'd start one of her rants about my lack of ambition. Every time she tried to convince him I was beneath her, he'd brush it off with a laugh, telling her I was the kind of man who worked hard and loved harder, and that was enough for him. For years, that was enough for me, too. I'd always known Jasmine was self-centered, but I told myself she was just determined. The way she pushed for what she wanted. Brunch with her mother instead of helping me paint. The spare room. A designer bag instead of paying off a small debt. That was just her way of finding her place in the world. I tried to see it as ambition, even if it left me feeling like I was always playing catch-up. But even ambition has its limits. When it came to this gift, it was never about Jasmine. It was about her father, the man who deserved better than faded photos and second-hand stories. I worked extra hours, cut back on my own hobbies. The guys at the office joked that I was married to my spreadsheet, but they didn't know the half of it. Every time I got a bonus or an unexpected raise, I added it to the pot. 2 years. $56,300 all tucked away like a secret miracle, waiting for the right moment. Then came that Saturday. The sun was warm, but not too bright. The kind of day that made you think good things were possible. I came home from the hardware store with a new set of deck chairs I'd promised Ronald for the backyard. The front door was open, voices drifting from the living room. Jasmine's laughter floated through the air, soft and syrupy, like honey drizzled on a poisoned apple. I pushed the door open and saw her sitting on the couch, legs crossed, phone in hand, her sister Sierra perched next to her. Sierra's brow was furrowed, but Jasmine's face, bright, with that smile. The one that made people believe her, even when she was lying. She had that look that said she'd already won, whatever the game was. She glanced at me, then back to Sierra, her voice lilting with that same rehearsed sweetness. "We all agreed," she said. "He's not welcome at Dad's birthday party." She met my eyes as she said it, like she'd been waiting for me to walk in and hear it, like she wanted me to. The silence that followed was louder than any scream. Sierra looked at me, confusion written all over her face, but Jasmine, she just sat there, her lips curved into that smirk I'd come to know too well. I stood there for a moment, the deck chairs forgotten in my hands. The weight of them? Nothing compared to the weight that settled on my chest. My mouth felt dry, like I'd swallowed a handful of sand. I wanted to ask her why. I wanted to ask her how she could take something I built, something I planned down to the last detail, and turn it into a weapon. But I didn't. I just looked at her, let that silence stretch between us like a chasm. Then I nodded. "Good to know," I said. My voice didn't crack. My hands didn't shake. I set the chairs down gently by the wall and turned to go upstairs. Each step felt like it carried the weight of every lie she'd ever told. Every time she'd smiled that smile and told me she loved me. every time I believed her. In the bedroom, I sat on the edge of the bed and pulled out my laptop. The itinerary sat on the screen like a lifeline. Rome. Florence, the Falsey estate, the villa on the hill, the contact numbers for the driver, the tour guide, the chef I'd arranged to cook Ronald his favorite meal on his birthday. Every detail was perfect, but it wasn't for me anymore. I clicked cancel reservation, my finger, hovered over the mouse, a single heartbeat between the world I'd built and the world she'd broken. Then I clicked. Flights canceled. Villa refunded. Money returned to my account. I watched the numbers reset. $5,600, right back where it started, not a cent lost, not a single memory made. The tears came then, hot and angry, not for the money, but for the man who'd never get to stand on that soil, not the way I planned it. But I would not let her win. I would not let her see me broken. I closed the laptop and wiped my face, forcing the bitterness down my throat. This was her game, but I'd already learned the rules. I stood up, grabbed my phone, and texted Leo. "Need a drink tonight? You in?" he replied a minute later. "Always." I stared at that screen for a long time, thinking about the promise I'd made to Ronald, about the man who'd called me son and meant it, about the woman who'd called me husband, but never meant it at all. I thought about the soil I'd never get to stand on, the bottle of wine we'd never share, the look in his eyes when he realized I wasn't there, because his daughter had decided I wasn't good enough. I would not let her win. I would find another way. I would not let her see me bleed. I wanted to sit in the dark, with the glow of the city lights outside my window, the hum of traffic, a steady reminder that the world kept moving, even when my own had been stopped in its tracks. So I turned off the phone, let it sit on the table like a broken compass, and tried to sleep. But sleep didn't come. My mind was a carousel of images, Ronald's face when he found out I wasn't there, the empty chair at that dinner table, the laughter that would echo through the Mercer house, with me on the outside, looking in. I thought about the villa I'd booked, how the sun would hit those old stones in the morning, how Ronald would have breathed in the air of his ancestors. I thought about the meal I'd arranged at that trattoria, the one his grandfather had saved up to eat at once a year, a place where family names still meant something. And I thought about Jasmine's smirk, the way her lips had curled around those words. "You're not welcome." Like they were the punchline to a joke I'd never understood.